I was never a bright child growing up, neither in my school nor in the college, but I always assumed that I was very street smart. No experience, literally in terms of what a business even means. Straight up 7 years of being a homemaker, no corporate career, and suddenly deciding to start a brand on my own. It was a great deal for a mom like me, considering the fact that I've never stepped out of the house. And if I could build a brand at the age of 35 worth 200 crores, you still have so much capacity in you. Hi, my name is Harini, and I am the founder of a personal care brand called Earth Rhythm. Earth Rhythm started, accidentally, to be very honest, and the entire story of Earth Rhythm today would definitely give you a lot of insights into how it came into existence and what we're trying to build in the environment today. Back in 2009, I was 22 years old and I was married quite early, and surprisingly 23, 1 year down my married life, I had a son, and my son was born with this disability called Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a genetic disorder that affects your physical, cognitive ability and various other issues that they might have with their skin concerns as well. It is natural for a mother at that point of time to not take forward my corporate career. I did the same. I quit my corporate career just in 2010. The minute it started, it ended. Fast forward, I think until about 2015, I was a very happy homemaker. I was moving from city to city. I moved a bunch of cities, trying to figure out answers, solution for my son's disability, which I would right now call it a special ability, to be very honest. I think 2015, when I reached Delhi, my son was about 5 years old, and he'd already started going to school. And that was the time around when, I had a lot of time in my hand and I wanted to, I wanted to do something on my own, and I decided to start working on skin concerns of my son. And that's how I started building a small skincare line of my own. I created a small brand called Soapworks India. It was a small homegrown Indian brand that I had created. I had registered under the MSME, and the idea back then was not to build a huge MNC or a company. To be very honest, that was not a part of my, the dream or the vision. But I was very clear that I wanted to do something on my own. So I started creating a bunch of skincare products. Simple, I would call it DIY skincare products right in my kitchen. Typically the idea was to sell it simply around the community I lived in. Back then, I would call it a passion project that I had. I had a lot of time in my hand, and the bug caught me a bit too seriously, and I decided to study formulations in detail. 2016 again came in. I decided to spend some time studying chemistry in detail. I come from a commerce background, so I had to unlearn my economics, commerce accounts, relearn my organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry. I did a bunch of courses, and I equipped myself to understand how formulation works. 2017, I started selling through a lot of social media channels. You name it, Instagram, Facebook, Google. I was there everywhere trying to sell my products through social media channels. I think this was the time around when I started building my own website. I was quite inquisitive. I wanted to build my brand all by myself, right from the website to packaging to graphic designing. I literally put my hands into everything, and I tried doing everything myself. It was around this time, 2018, when my dad was casually visiting Gurgaon. By then, I had moved to Gurgaon from Delhi, and my dad was visiting Gurgaon, and he literally saw me inside this room, sitting amongst a bunch of boxes, trying to create something. And my son outside there screaming and, wanting for attention. My dad came in, very angry, and he was like, "Harini, what are you trying to do? I mean, you should draw a line between your passion and your business, and you should start focusing on your family." That really hurt me too hard, to be very honest. I decided, why should I give up on my dreams when I know that there are a bunch of customers waiting there for my product? Why should I even give up on my dreams? And hence, I decided to take his help. I requested him to help me build my brand and not stop me. A wonderful dad he was. He decided to jump into the business. Together, we started in 2019. We rebranded Soapworks as Earth Rhythm, and we launched it into the market in 2019. When I came into the market, to be very honest, first generation entrepreneur, no experience, literally in terms of what a business even means. Straight up 7 years of being a homemaker, no corporate career, and suddenly deciding to start a brand on my own. Literally, it was overwhelming at that point of time. But I think what really kept us going was the dream, the passion, and the vision that we had in what we wanted to do. In 2019, and I decided to own the manufacturing. It was a very, very complicated decision to take a call of owning the manufacturing, simply because for us, when we came into the market, we were very, very small, amongst the giants that existed out there in the market. It was just me and my dad, and we wanted one more person to help us, in running the business. And we had just taken off, and literally there were no funds in our hand. Technically, operational issues that we had in the company, literally existing right in a homegrown setup. I mean, where would I go find that person? And while I was contemplating and thinking, how am I even going to take off this business, I decided to take a plunge and go to the security guard of the condo where I live in, and I told him, "Bhaiya, मुझे एक लड़की चाहिए काम के लिए." The security was like, "किस बात के लिए चाहिए आपको?" I said, "कुछ काम है घर पे, आप भेज दीजिए." So the next day, I had a line of girls standing outside my door asking, "दीदी क्या काम है? झाड़ू, पोछा, बर्तन, क्या करना है आपके घर में?" So I said, "ये काम कुछ नहीं करना है. Do you know how to read and write? Are you educated?" Out of all those girls out there, I spotted one girl. Her name was Momita, and she had come from this village called Sundarbans, a tiny little village back in West Bengal. She was very young. She was about 22, 23 when I saw her in 2019. So I asked her, "Momita, do you know how to read and write?" She said, "Didi, I'm a graduate." I was shocked. She was a graduate, and yet she was looking for a house help's job. And I asked her what pushed her to look for such a role. She said, "I don't know how to speak English, but I can read and write English." And that very moment, I decided that she's the one I'm going to recruit. She was the first employee and the proudest person that I am of in this entire journey that I have built in Earth Rhythm. We took her at a salary of 5,000 rupees back in 2019. Today, she gets a salary of 10x times of what she was at, in 2019. And the amount of, confidence or the evolution that I have seen in Momita's entire journey at Earth Rhythm is something that I must mention it here today. When she came in, there are two aspects to this. One is the physical aspect, and the second thing is her intellectual aspect, right? The physical aspect, she came in as a person clad in a sari covering her head. There's nothing wrong about it, but she came as this naive little girl, raw from village, and that's how she came into Earth Rhythm. And from there on, I could train her into a person who actually came to me after a month and told me, "Didi, हमको strategy होना चाहिए इस company में. Can we do COD orders only on Friday? Can we do prepaid orders only on Tuesdays?" She built strategies in the company, and this was an awakening moment for me, and that was my very first success in building Earth Rhythm. That very moment, that day, I felt that I had already tasted success, in building Earth Rhythm. From there on, we recruited many such women like Momita who work in the production floor in the factory site today at Earth Rhythm, who lead the production floor completely. Apart from that, we also work. It's natural that because, my son had a special ability, I wanted to ensure that we were completely inclusive. We wanted to ensure that we were bringing people with disability to work alongside us. We had a lot of, people on the spectrum, people who had Down syndrome working alongside us in the factory site in several roles. And this was consciously done with an idea to ensure that we were being completely inclusive in terms of the work environment that we had. While I was still surviving as a homegrown entrepreneur, I had a lot of girls, about 5 or 8 girls coming right to my house to help me, build this brand. And it used to be literally challenging at that point of time, because constantly there were people around me wondering, why did I have these many girls right inside my house? And I think that was the stepping stone for me to decide to get out of this home-based setup into moving into an office space technically. It was a great deal for a mom like me, considering the fact that I've never stepped out of the house with a big worry in my head, wondering what my son is going to do, who is going to take care of him, how am I going to step out. It was literally moving out of my comfort zone, and it was a phase where I had to decide between my dream, my career versus my son. And I had to do both of it. I had no option. And that's where I think we women, take such challenging decisions and come out in flying colors. Fast forward, The brand was built from 2019 from a small homegrown setup to a company that has about 100 plus employees today. We've built it very, very carefully, slowly in these number of years, keeping in mind the number of products that we have. We have about 160 products that are selling on the website. And these 160 products did not happen just like that on day number one. We've taken so much number of hours and time into, putting our mind into understanding what consumers wanted and how they wanted it, right? For example, while I survived as a homegrown entrepreneur, I realized that a lot of consumers were coming to small businesses like mine back then when I was a small homegrown setup as Soapworks for two major reasons. One, because they wanted customization. Consumers were not able to figure out how do they reach out to large brands and give them their customization requests. That was one major reason why consumers were coming to smaller brands. The second thing was a portion of these consumers were wanting to have a very sustainable lifestyle. They're very conscious consumers, and hence they felt it was easier to approach smaller brands and give them requests about their sustainability, lifestyle. Keeping these two in mind, we decided to come into the market with the thought process of building a zero-waste skincare line. 2020, pandemic hit. I think it really wasn't mattering too much in the personal care space. Consumers were becoming more and more conscious about their personal care routines. In terms of, the D2C market mix that we chose, how we wanted to scale the brand, we wanted to be a completely digital brand. Why? To be very honest, for any for any Indian brand, I think being a digital brand is definitely something which is very easy because the entry barriers are not so complicated and one can easily penetrate into online markets. Most of our target audience were consumers who are, engrossing a lot of content from, social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And these are, low-hanging fruits which we felt that, could be easily targeted, when we wanted to enter the market. So that was the strategy that we took. We wanted to ensure that we were a 100% digital brand. We built our own D2C website. We started selling through other third-party platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, and few other channels. From doing 100 orders a month to 25,000 orders a month right now, we've done it all just being digital. And if I could do this at the age of 35, building a 200 crore company with no prior experience, I think, what are you even waiting for? You still have a long way to go in your journey. You might be a mother, you might be a woman who's just married, you might be a woman who's pregnant, you might be someone who's just taken a break in your career. Don't stop. This is just the beginning of something really big in your career. I was never a bright child growing up, neither in my school nor in the college, but I always assumed that I was very street smart. Even today, while I sit in many of these investor conversations, one constant requirement that I have is whether I am from an IIT or an IIM. While this could have been a super duper added advantage for me, but that is not going to be the deciding factor for me to where I am heading to and whether, how big I can build my company to at this point. If Falguni Nayar could build a brand worth 50,000 crores at the age of 50, and if I could build a brand at the age of 35 worth 200 crores, you still have so much capacity in you. Go there and get it done.
Josh Talks is now a Spotify exclusive podcast. The audio version of our talks will be available only on Spotify. If you like this video and you like to listen to more inspiring stories like this, please follow the Josh Talks podcast only on Spotify.
क्योंकि आप जोश टॉक्स देख रहे हैं, जाहिर सी बात है कि आप अपनी ज़िंदगी में आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं। ये जाहिर सी बात है कि आप अपनी ज़िंदगी को सीरियसली लेते हैं, आप वो सारे स्किल्स एक्वायर करना चाहते हैं जिससे आप ज़िंदगी में तरक्की कर सकें, लोगों से आगे बढ़ पाएं। और अगर ये सच है तो जोश टॉक्स का ही एक ऐप है जोश स्किल्स, जहां एग्जैक्टली इसी चीज़ को करने के लिए बहुत ही खूबसूरत बहुत सारे कोर्सेज बनाए गए हैं। कोर्सेज जो लाखों स्टूडेंट्स ऑलरेडी ले चुके हैं। ये कोर्सेज स्पेसिफिकली सिर्फ एजुकेशनल नहीं है जहां आप एक्सेल स्किल्स, पावर पॉइंट स्किल्स और ये सब सीख सकते हैं, बल्कि लाइफ स्किल्स भी हैं जहां आप पब्लिक स्पीकर कैसे बना जाए वो सीख सकते हैं, आप कॉन्फिडेंस कैसे एक्वायर कर सकते हैं वो सीख सकते हैं, आप हेजिटेशन के बिना कैसे बोलें वो सीख सकते हैं, आप अपनी पर्सनालिटी कैसे डेवलप कर सकते हैं वो सीख सकते हैं। हर एक कोर्स में डेली क्विजेज हैं, एक्सरसाइजेज हैं, एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत कम्युनिटी है जो आपको सपोर्ट करेगी, आपको इनकरेज करेगी। तो अगर आपको ये टॉक पसंद आया हो, जोश टॉक्स जो करता है वो पसंद है, तो आपको जोश स्किल्स भी बहुत बहुत ही फायदेमंद लगेगा। आज ही डाउनलोड करें जोश स्किल्स का ऐप और उनके कोर्सेज एक्सप्लोर करके अपनी जिंदगी को